Donald Trump is panicking as Iran did not hesitate to shoot its missiles at U.S. ships as U.S. ships tried to traverse the Strait of Hormuz. Now, yesterday, the Trump regime was covering up that its ships were shot at when they tried to get into the Strait of Hormuz and didn't make it to the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. also tried to cover up that Iran was able to successfully strike a South Korea tanker, a UAE tanker, and the port of Fujairah. We learned, of course, the port of Fujairah was on fire because we saw it on fire. Same thing with the South Korean tanker and cargo ship, and same thing with the UAE ship. We saw it on fire, then it had to be confirmed by the respective government ministries. And the port of Fujairah, by the way, is where the United Arab Emirates tries to circumvent the closure of the Strait of Hormuz by rerouting the crude through an alternative route. And that's exactly where Iran struck. The UAE and the US tried to claim, oh, not a big deal. It wasn't hit that bad. It was hit very bad. Thermal satellite imagery showed that the damage was massive to that UAE port of Fujairah. But so Donald Trump and his regime tried to claim, oh, the UAE wasn't shooting at our ships, because Donald Trump said if they shot at our ships, we would blow them to smithereens. We would shoot them off the face of this earth. We would blow up Iran. And Iran saying, we did it. So we shot warning shots at your ships. Are you going to blow us off the face of the earth? Or is this yet another bluff? That's what Iran's top generals are telling their state regime media, who's quoting them. Another bluff by Donald Trump, so utterly weak. That's what Iran's regime media is saying. Here in the United States, you have CBS reporting that these two U.S. Navy destroyers, the USS Truxtun and the USS Mason, successfully crossed the Strait of Hormuz yesterday under heavy Iranian fire. So once it became clear that this did indeed happen, state regime media CBS tried to frame it as this was somehow a successful mission by the United States Navy. How is it a successful mission? You got shot at and then you left and the Strait of Hormuz is closed. I'm trying to understand how this is supposed to be a win for the United States. They go on to say the two destroyers, backed up by fighters and AH-64s, were attacked by, quote, a sustained barrage of Iranian small boats, missiles, and drones. Okay, what am I missing here? How is this viewed as a successful mission? And why did Donald Trump cover this up? Look what Iran's regime media is saying. Trump's new bluff: if Iran attacks American ships, it will be wiped off the face of the earth. That was a quote that Donald Trump told CBS and Fox and others. And Iran's like, yep, we fired on the American warships in the region today, and nothing has happened. That's how utterly weak Donald Trump is. But Donald Trump then made a social media post yesterday where he was like, we destroyed 7 of Iran's small boats. We nailed them. You know, look what we did. And Iran's like, no, you didn't. You didn't shoot our fast boats. You shot civilian boats and you you engaged in more war crimes, and we can prove it. Look at the satellite imagery, you idiots, of the actual ships that you destroyed. They're not Iranian fast ships. They're civilian ships, small, tiny civilian ships like the ones you're blowing up off the coast of Venezuela, pirates. Iran claims that U.S. fired on civilian boats, killing 5, contradicting CENTCOM's account. And sadly, CENTCOM's social media posts have lost all credibility. Iranian military sources told Tasman news agency that no Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy vessels were hit in Monday's Hormuz clashes, contradicting Trump and CENTCOM's claim of destroying 6 or 7 Iranian fast boats. Local investigations, they said, indicate U.S. forces instead opened fire on 2 small civilian boats, carrying goods from Kashab, Oman toward Iran, killing 5 civilians on board. The rushed and reckless actions reflect heightened fear and anxiety among U.S. forces over the IRGC fast boat operations, Tasnim said. CENTCOM has not responded to the Iranian account. Also, a military source told Tasnim the following: America fired on these 2 small ships. These are more clumsy actions by Donald Trump and his regime. Foreign Minister Araghchi of Iran posted the following message after Iran immediately responded to the potential of U.S. sending Navy ships into the Strait of Hormuz and Donald Trump's post of Operation Project Freedom of escorting ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran then immediately went into action. They attacked the South Korean ship and the UAE ship and the port of Fujairah. And then Foreign Minister Araghchi posted, events in Hormuz make it clear that there's no military solution to a political crisis. As talks are making progress with Pakistan's gracious effort, the U.S. should be wary of being dragged back into quagmire by ill-wishers. So should the UAE. Project Freedom is Project Deadlock. And Iran has told the United States, look, you have 2 options. You want to escalate the war? We're ready. You want to do a ground invasion? We're ready. That's your option. You want to do a war? Go ahead, do a war. You want to negotiate with us? The deal that you're going to have to cut with us is not going to be a great deal. You're not going to dominate us in a negotiation. You're not going to achieve in a negotiation that which you could not achieve during the war. If you want to try to do it, go to war. Otherwise, you're going to have to make a number of concessions. So what do you want to do, Donald? Or do you just want to stay in this quagmire forever? And don't you think that this naval blockade is somehow going to destroy Iran? Iran has alternative means of getting its oil into other areas regardless of the United States naval blockade. Here's what Iran's posting as well. Impasse with Iran, Trump's biggest quagmire legacy. This is what Iran generals are speaking to their regime media about, right? So as Donald Trump goes to his regime media, Barack Ravid of Axios, CBS, state regime media Fox, that's what Trump's saying, CENTCOM saying. On the other hand, Iran's saying, impasse with Trump, Trump's biggest quagmire legacy. More than 2 months have passed since the start of the war with Iran, and none of Trump's goals have been achieved. Neither regime change, nor shutting down the nuclear path, nor stopping the proxy forces. Analysts call this situation a frozen conflict, meaning neither victory, nor agreement, nor an exit route. So just think about it. That's Iran's position. How could you claim a victory, Donald? We control the Strait of Hormuz. You didn't do a regime change. You haven't shut down our nuclear path, and you haven't stopped our proxy forces. That's Iran's position. Donald Trump's position is we've won. The war is won. Iran doesn't have a navy. Iran doesn't have ships. Iran's not shooting at us. We're winning. We've won. It's over. I just want to run up the score. Okay. The 2 sides, that's their propaganda. So what should we do when we're trying to understand who's telling us the truth and who's lying? Well, I want to look at who's controlling the Strait of Hormuz. I want to look at Donald Trump said, I'm going to blow you to smithereens if you shoot at the U.S. ships that are heading into the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. ships left. Iran shot at them. They haven't been blown up to smithereens. I'm looking at the port of Fujairah. I'm looking at the UAE and South Korea ships that were blown up by Iran when they tested the Strait of Hormuz closure. I'm using basic logic to try to determine what the hell is going on here, as well as reading what each side's saying and coming to my own conclusions. The representative of the leader of the revolution in the Defense Council of Iran said the following: American pirates should know that the cost of the decision for the enemy will exceed the threshold of tolerance. The Islamic Republic of Iran is a sanctuary, and its security is a non-negotiable principle. That follows Iran's National Security Commission head, a guy by the name of Ibrahim Azizi, who says, warning, any American interference in the new maritime regime of the Strait of Hormuz will be considered a violation of the ceasefire. The Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf would not be managed by Trump's delusional posts. No one would believe blame game scenarios. That's what they're posting right now. What's Donald Trump posting? Right? I'm reading you their post. That's what they're saying. What's Donald Trump doing? How serious is Donald Trump taking this all? Would we both agree objectively that these are deeply serious issues, war and peace, life or death, that this is impacting you, that this is impacting your costs, your gas prices, your standard of living? Like, this is impacting you directly, what Donald Trump, and you're not feeling good about this, right? He's making you suffer. I think that's an objective fact, that Trump is making us suffer. So I'm reading to you what the Iranians are saying. I'm just going to read to you what Trump is posting. This is what they're posting at the same time. Here's what Trump posts. He's posting repost. The State of the Union was historic. Best State of the Union I've ever seen. This speech is cathartic. This is the best State of the Union address I've ever seen. Why? May 5th are you posting, or May 4th are you posting about the State of the Union? That was quite some time ago. Then Donald Trump, by the way, he keeps on posting that. Then he posts these weird AI memes that say leaders lead, and it's Donald Trump standing up with his fist out. Cowards kneel, and it's former President Biden taking a knee. And then it says traitors bow, and it's former President Obama bowing to the old Ayatollah. That's what you're doing, Donald? I mean, you're the coward right now who said you would blow Iran to smithereens if they shot at American ships, and they did, and you've done nothing. But this is how you want to behave. Attacking former American leaders. Like, could you imagine if Iran was spending its time attacking like old Ayatollahs and attacking old people who were part of its like governing structure, right? I mean, regardless of if you agree or don't agree, like, do you realize how weak you make America look when you attack our former leaders like that? How you make America look like it's some weak, pathetic thing that has no transition of power and stability. Then Donald Trump posts this: fund the government, build the ballroom, stop playing political games with the president's safety, build the ballroom. Then he keeps posting Congress members. What we saw this past week was a third attempt on POTUS's life. Build the ballroom. Then it's like another congressman. With the White House correspondents that are making another attempt. Enough is enough. Build the ballroom. And they keep saying they can't articulate any logical reason the ballroom shouldn't be completed. So this is what you're posting right now. This is what you're posting. Meanwhile, Iran media, Mr. Trump has the strait. This is what they're posting on Iran media. Mr. Trump, has the strait been opened, or should we split it further? Iran, after the ceasefire, had opened the Strait of Hormuz within the framework of new rules. However, the naval blockade practically caused the strait to be fully closed once again. And then Iran posts this video of Donald Trump's speech yesterday, where they quote Donald Trump as saying, cognitive tests are very difficult. I've passed. The first question is very hard. Identify a squirrel. This is what they're posting of Donald Trump saying. Here, play this clip.
Which is the squirrel? So they show that question. And then the first 4 or 5 questions they get a little more difficult. By the time you get to the middle, they're tough.
And for Donald Trump, he says everything's going great, but this is just a detour. He says this was a detour that we all took. Here, play this clip.
But that happened. So we did a little detour, and it's working out very nicely. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. They have no radar. They have no nothing. They have no leaders, actually. The leaders happen to be gone also, but can't let them have a nuclear weapon, or you'd have problems like nobody would believe. And it's going very well.
And then finally, an account close to Speaker Mb Ghalibaf of Iran writes the following: contrary to claims by Western sources, the Strait of Hormuz is completely closed, and no vessel has passed through it in the past few hours. The necessity of keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed and preventing the U.S. destroyers from passing through it has made conflict between Iran and the United States inevitable. The main confrontation will be carried out with the Israeli regime. Iran's social media accounts are also posting the following: Iran is a superpower. There you have it. That's what Donald Trump's legacy is. Quagmire, weakness, pathetic, grift. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. Double check You may think that you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So double check that you're subscribed. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you so much, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.